Okay, let's start up with Chapter 8, Section 2. This is about adding and subtracting decimals and decimal expressions. All right, so first thing first, let's go ahead and talk about adding and subtracting them. So when you're adding and subtracting decimal values, what we're going to do is we're going to write the numbers. I mean, there's a number of ways you can do it, but you're going to write the numbers vertically, okay? And then line up the place values. You might have also heard line up the decimal points, which in turn makes the place values line up. So I like to always say like line up the place values because I just like to say that because that's really what's going on. All right, if needed, add zeros so that all the numbers, because sometimes they're not always going to have the same number of digits. So add zeros to make everything line up. All right, add or subtract the numbers and place the decimal point clearly in the solution. Make sure you can see it. Sometimes people don't put it, it's like you can barely see it or it's not even there, but make sure it's there. So in the first example here, we're gonna line these up. So you got 63 and 2/10, and then we've got 0 and 2,348 10,000s. So notice the decimal points are lined up there. And then you can add zeros, you can add zeros to make everything kind of line up. So we're adding everything up. So yeah, it's just pretty easy. So add 0 and 8, 4, 3, this makes a 4. Drop down the decimal, and then a 3 and a 6. There we go. And then on this next one here, we're going to subtract 20 minus 242 thousandths. So we're going to do 20. Now I'm going to write 20 like this, 20, and I'm going to put 3 zeros on it because the decimal that we're subtracting from it has three numbers to the right of the decimal. So I'm going to write like this. All right, now here's what you don't do. You don't do this, right? You don't do that. That does not work, right? That's what a lot of people do. That's the most common mistake people make when they're subtracting from a number with a 0 in it. You cannot do that. 0 minus 2 is not 2. 0 minus 4 is not 4. It's actually negative, right? When you really think about it, 0 minus 2 is a negative number. So when you're borrowing, or in other words, regrouping, we've got to borrow from the 2. Right? So that 2 becomes a 1, and then everything else becomes, like all these other numbers become a 9, and then this becomes a 10. Now there's a longer explanation to that, but I'll just keep it simple like that for right now. And then now we can subtract. So 10 minus 2 is 8, 9 minus 4 is 5, 9 minus 2 is 7. Drop down the decimal, and then 19. So 19.758. There you go. All right, subtract or perform the indicated operation. Now we're subtracting a negative on this one. Subtracting a negative, that means like these two negatives are here, they become a positive. So it's really 9.7 plus 5.4. So that is how we're doing it right there. And then 7 plus 4 is 11. Bring the decimal down. And then 10 plus 5 is 15. So 15.1. All right. Same thing here. We're just kind of dealing with expressions, algebraic expressions, but same thing. We're just really focusing on the decimal part here. So we're going to do 3.04. I'm not going to really worry about the y while I'm subtracting. Minus 7.5. Now right here, we're going to bring a 0, make it line up. Now here, in this case, 4 minus 0, you can subtract that because that just stays the same, right? 4 minus 0 is 4. 0 minus 4, however, if I were to switch that, if I were to put the 0 here, that would not be the same thing. But 4 minus 0 is 4, right? 0 minus 5, you cannot do that, so you got to borrow. So that becomes a 2, this becomes 10, right? So you got 10 minus 5 is 5. And then 2 minus 7 is -5. So there you go. So you got -5.54. and then don't forget the y. All right. Perform the indicated operation. All right, we're still doing the same thing. Now we're in this one right here, think of this as 1x, right? So we're going to do 1, and I'm going to put 2 zeros after the decimal, minus 0.44. Again, you cannot, that does not make 4, so we've got to borrow. So this becomes 0, this becomes a 9, and this becomes 10. Right, so 10 minus 4 is 6, 9 minus 4 is 5, and that's a 0. And then I'm going to tack on the 6, or on the x there after the 6. There it goes. Use the bar graph to answer the following questions. Find the range of values in Benford's law of distribution. All right, so range is, in case you're wondering, vocabulary-wise, that just means difference. And what does difference means? What does difference mean? That means subtract, right? So subtract those numbers. So, and you're going to subtract. When you're finding the range, you take the highest value, and look at the highest number is 3/10, and the lowest one, that looks like a little bit below that, but I think we can just call that 0.05 for right now. All right, and yeah, subtract. So that is what we're going to do. So we're going to do 0.03. I'm going to put a 0 on it, minus 0.05, which is going to be 25/100ths. All right, find the sum of frequencies of the first 4 numbers. Find the sum. All right, so right here, if I were to estimate that, that's about what? I would say that's probably 0.17. All right, this is about, I think, probably 0.12. And this is like 0.1. All right, so we're just adding all those up. That's all we're doing. So 0.3, I'm going to put a 0 after it. 0.17, 0.12, and then 0.1 and put a 0 after that. Then add it all up. 0 plus 7 plus 2, that's 9. Nothing carries. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. That's a 6. Drop down to 0, and there you go, 0.69.